Let's take a look at some of the advanced skeleton hidden or hard to find features. Now, the reason for most of these features that we're going to show here can be somewhat hidden or hard to find is because they are not very commonly used features and are mostly for special cases and therefore not highly exposed. So let's go ahead and go through this list. First one is TwistJoint attributes. Okay, to take a closer look at that, let's fire up a demo character. We'll grab Tuna. And if we select the main controller, turn on joint visibility, we can see that Tuna, just as most characters, have these twist joints running down the arms and legs. And what that is doing is making sure that when you twist the wrist, for example, that it distributes that twist up throughout the length of the forearm here. Now, what is somewhat hidden is the fact that each one of these joints actually have attributes that says how much each one receives the twist. There's also a twist addition where you not only can set the amount of percentage that of twist it will inherit, but you can manually add the amount of rotation. So this can be useful for specific tweaks. Okay, next, SetBuildPose function. Okay, so that's another function that can be somewhat hard to find, and it's similar or related to the go to build pose. So we have the button here that says go to build pose. So if you have any pose, you hit go to build pose, it will reset the pose. Now, there could be cases where you want some pose. Hang on, turn off the joint visibility for that. If you wanted, for example, the fingers to be slightly curled by default, if you wanted this to be the build pose, you can right click on the go to build pose button, and this pop-up menu comes that says set build pose. If you do that, it will detect any controllers that are not in default pose and their values, and ask, do you want to grab all these controllers and their values and store that as the new build pose? And we hit OK. So now if we change anything, and then we now hit go to build pose, you see that it'll restore the pose, even that custom pose that we set. Next, setting a key to preserve custom values upon rebuild. Okay, so that, of course, if you do set build pose, that will preserve those custom values upon rebuild. But there could be a case where you are setting a custom value on what is not a rig control. For example, the twist joints here. We just looked at, we can control or override how much each one of these gets. So let's say for some reason we wanted all these to get 100%. So now when you twist the wrist, the twisting is actually happening all at the elbow. That does not look good, but just for demonstration purpose, if you now hit rebuild advanced skeleton, these values would be reset to their default values, because these are not animation controllers, these are just part of the rig. So a way that you could preserve these custom set values on any node in the rig is make sure they have a incoming connection, because that will get preserved in rebuild. And one quick way to do that is just to set a key. So if we now set a key here, that will now be preserved. So any node of the rig that has an incoming connection will have that connection preserved upon rebuild. Okay, we have a bunch here that's got to do with holding down the control key. So the control key is obviously the key on the keyboard in the lower right hand corner. And if you hold that down while you run some of these functions, you can get alternative options. First one, submit to support. Okay, so if we go into the export section, we can see that there's a certain number of buttons here. If we hold down the control key and hit the advanced skeleton main icon to reopen the tool, you see we have one more option here, and this is for submitting files to support. It's got a help image that says this will export the scene into a zip file format. It will also make sure to include any files that are referenced in. So if you are encountering a problem, you want to submit the files to tech support to get help, this we'll make sure that not only any reference model are included in the file, but it's also zipped down to a small size. Next, Ctrl+Shift in the selector functions, we'll put them to the shelf. Okay, so in the selectors and pickers, we have these menu functions here. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Now, as it says, Ctrl+Shift has a special function when you execute any of this. So one of the functions is you can select any FK controller and go to Anim and hit Switch FK IK. It switches. It does the seamless switch from FK to IK and aligning the limbs. Now let's do the same, but this time hold down the Control and the Shift button. And we say switch FK to IK, and you can see that that has now made a button on the shelf for a switcher. So we can now select any controller. Let's go with IK leg, pose it, hit that button we just created on the shelf, and it's done the seamless switch to FK. Next, Control key on FaceBuildStep, Tongue and eyelash. All right, because we're going to show it the eyelash, let's grab a character that actually has eyelashes, and that's going to be Powder. Okay, Powder has eyelashes, so this is going to be more relevant. Again, hit toggle fit advanced, delete advanced. That'll delete the advanced face, leave us just the fit face. And we're going to look at tongue and eyelash. So let's go ahead and build the steps. Okay, eyelashes are part of the eyelid. So now when we hit the build button for eyelid, we're going to hold down the Control key. And we can see something happen here. So when we held down the Control key and building the eyelids, it has now left us with what is the lid cages. So this is to make sure that the eyelashes are weighted to match the eyelids. And if there's issue with the eyelashes, it's probably because it's not aligning well with the cage. So you can here sculpt that cage to better align with the lashes and copy the skin weights. Okay, let's continue the steps all the way down to tongue. And yes, obviously, once we have the correct weighting copied onto the eyelash geometry, just go ahead and delete these eyelash cages. And here at the tongue step, we'll hold down the Control key and hit build. And similar to the eyelashes, we can see that we're getting a cage here. So the cage is correctly weighted. And if you're having issues with the tongue weighting, it's probably because it's somehow not aligned well with the tongue. So you can tweak this cage here to match with the tongue and copy skin weights. Once you're done doing so, just delete the cage. Okay, next. Control key on AutoPlace orbits the camera. Okay, so this got to do with AutoPlace. Let's make a new scene and grab another demo character. Let's go with Chubby. So we'll extract the model out of this rig by just go to body, toggle fit advanced and delete advanced. That deletes the entire advanced skeleton body rig, including the face setup. And in this case, we want to delete the fit skeleton as well. Now that we have just the model, we're going to look at the AutoPlace function. So under preparation rig, we're going to define what is the skin. And now we're going to run the AutoPlace, and the little hidden feature here is that you can hold down the Control key as you hit the AutoPlace button. And as it does that, the camera will orbit the character as it's performing the scanning process. So this is not a highly useful function other than the purpose of looking cool. So there we go. The AutoFit is complete, which leaves us these controllers to help fine-tuning this placement of these joints. Once you're happy with the placement, hit delete guides. Next, Control key on Export Unreal. Yep. Okay, open another demo character. Let's change to something else. So let's grab Max. And in the export section, there is a function called mannequin export. In the help image, you can see that this exports an advanced skeleton rig and in the process converts the deformation skeleton into a Unreal mannequin hierarchy and naming convention, allowing you to plug it directly into Unreal and start playing the character. Now there's a whole separate video about that, which you can look at. But in here, what we're going to see that when you hit this button, Unreal Mannequin Export, it does not expose you to the built-in XPX exports, because if any of those settings are wrong, it will not work. But there are special cases where you, in addition to wanting to use the Unreal Mannequin Export, you want to tweak the FPX export settings. So holding down Control key, hitting Mannequin Export, firstly brings up the standard Mannequin Export options. But once you proceed, the extra functionality you have is that you here have now the options to override FPX export settings. All right, next. Control key on create driving system. Okay, so create driving systems are driving multiple controllers. A good example is the fingers. So here we have one attribute rotating multiple controllers. That is a driving systems, and you can make your own. Say you wanted one attribute that rotates all these controllers as such. Then you would just go into the driving system, hit create driving system, and we now have this new big controller that has one attribute that will do that pose. All right, now let's undo that, and this time we're going to look at what is the hard to find option, and that is you can hold down the control key as you click on create driving system, and it brings up extra options here that allows you to specify minimum max for your new attribute, and also soft limits options. And if you are unaware of soft limits, what they are, it's basically non-hard limits. And a good example of that is here. You can say that if you drag this slider, it stops at -2, because that's a reasonable range. But it's a soft limit, so you can enter a number higher, so that -10. And you can see the finger completely breaks. So you can enter higher numbers, you can animate higher numbers. It's just that the slider stops at soft limits. All right, pickers are just MayaFiles. Okay, pickers. So this is the selector and this is the picker. Both are UIs to select and key character. The picker works a little bit different. The hard to find function here, as what we're seeing here in this picker, it's just a MayaFile and therefore very easy to customize. So if you wanted to customize how this looks and feels, you can just open it. It is a MayaFile. And to show you, we will just look at where Advanced Skeleton is installed. You can look under Advanced Skeleton Files, and there'll be a picker folder, and in picker file scenes, there are the two MayaFiles that corresponds to the two pickers that you can load, one for the face and one for the body. And let's go ahead and open them. We open the pipe in. You can see here, this is the file. So if you want to customize it, you can just do it any way you want. These are regular objects that you can edit. Assign colors, you can do any style you want. Once you're happy with it, you just save out the file. As long as you save it in this folder, then next time you open the picker, it will become an available tab here. The file, your custom picker file. Okay, next. Main.jointVis and other main attributes. Okay, these are not very hidden, but it is a commonly asked. The question is, how do I show the joints? And it is here on the main controller. And this is where you can control the visibility of a lot of things. For example, the joint visibility, yes. Turning that on will show you the joints. In addition to that, you can turn on and off for the different parts. So if you only wanted to turn off FK controllers, you can do that. IK controllers, FK IK controllers, which are these crosses where you can do the switching, bend, arrow, driving system, any custom controller visibilities as well. So a whole bunch of attributes here on the main controller to control visibilities. Control box attributes. Let's open Powder. So this is similar to the main controller, and that's if you select the control box itself. This has various attributes. So ABC controllers are the levels of on-face controllers. A controllers are the big regions, the green controllers. B being the medium regions, and C being the bind controllers. There's a whole bunch of other ones, T, tongue, blah, blah, blah. There's also one here that says limits. That's controlling if you're going to have limits on these type of joystick controls. By default, there are limits. You see how far they can go. But it's possible to turn that off by turning off limits here. Now you can go as far as you want, way over any of the limits. Next, Main.version and FaceGroup.version. So Advanced Skeleton has a certain version at any given time. You can see which version you got by opening the main interface and go into the About section that says this is the current version. Now, when you build your rig, that becomes the version of the rig. And you can at any time check what version of Advanced Skeleton was used to build the rig. On the body, just select the main controller again. Now, this is not in the channel box because it's not an attribute that you are meant to change at all, but it is still an attribute. And to see it, you'll have to open the attribute editor, and you can go to the last section that says extra attributes, and you'll find one here that says version, and it says 6065. So this body rig for this character was built using Advanced Skeleton version 6065. Likewise for the face, if we open the outliner, we'll go into face group, just select the top node here, face group. And in the attribute editor, under extra attributes, we can see that the face was built using version 6065. Next, advanced IK attributes on the last IK controller. Okay, so that's for spline IK, which is spines, necks, tails, etc. Let's go ahead and change to IK spine. And there can be any number of controllers along the limb, and the last one will always have some additional attributes. Let's just go through them from the top. IKCV attributes, that's an attribute you can turn on, and you will then get tiny little controllers, one for each control vertex along the spline that is controlling the IK. Next, IK hybrid controllers, they are by default on, these screen controllers. And the reason why they're called hybrid, by the way, is because they are essentially giving you the behavior of FK, but in the IKs. And it's working by just being an offset controller to the IK. Next, stiffness. So if we move this off to the side, you see that that sets the amount of stiffness near the controllers on how much of an S-curve you're going to get on the curve spline. And volume. By default, it's on, meaning as we stretch the rig, you can see it kind of loses some volume here. That's optional. It can be turned off. And again, that's a soft limit attribute. So even though it stops at 10, if you wanted to highly exaggerate this volume effect, you can just type any higher number, say 20 or even 40, and you see we'll then get an extremely exaggerated volume compensation effect. All right, go to build post, puts all the controllers back to build post. Advanced dynamics attributes on the first dynamics controller. Yep, so dynamics can easily be added to any limb or using the picker or the selector. Let's just select the hand and show that we can select this and say dynamics add to selected. So put some simple animation on the scapula here. So we now get this dynamics on the arm. Now, what we're looking at is the advanced dynamics attributes on the first controller. So the first controller in this dynamics chains was the shoulder, and you see that this now has some additional attributes to control the dynamics. So that's going to be blend, which is blending in and out how much of the dynamics to use. Base goal, how much to be attached at the base. But in most cases, that's going to be 100%, so a full value. And at the tip, 0.6, but you could make that even less to get more exaggerated dynamics. And conserve, which is a typical dynamics attributes, which is basically dampening down the system, or you can think of it as like more underwater effects. And also while we're here, I'll show you, if you want to remove the dynamics and go back to a normal setup, all you got to do is select the dynamics group and delete it. And we're back to a normal functioning rig. Next, FitTongue locators can be duplicated. All right. Open another demo character with a face. And we're going to look at the fitting of the face. So we go into the face, toggle to fit, and I'm going to hide the main geometry and the teeth. Now, if you have a very long tongue, you just go ahead and duplicate the locator. And you can do this as many times as you want and have as many locators as you want. And when you build this, it will create tongue controllers for as many locators as it finds. Next, FitSkeleton.preReBuild and postRebuild. Okay, so the FitSkeleton, if you select that node called FitSkeleton and you open it, the attribute editor, you can see that there's a bunch of attributes here, pre-rebuild and post-rebuild scripts. Now, if your pipeline has some special requirements, any function that you might need to have automatically happen anytime you rebuild a rig. So these are little hooks that allows you to customize your pipeline with scripts. Vertices can be selected when creating a Fit EyeLid. Okay. Actually, to make this easier to see, let's open another demo character here. Let's grab Tuna. And we'll look at his eyelid fitting here. Actually, let's delete all eyelid, outer eyelid main, and eyelid inner. And the way you normally will do it is you select the edge loop and just hit eyelid outer. So it will detect which of the vertices along the loop is most to the left and most to the right and do the splitting between upper and lower according to that. But let's say you did not like the split to be right here, you wanted the split to be somewhere else. You can specify where you want that split by including vertices to the selection. So the way to do that is you select your edge loop and then you right click and go to multi, and that allows you to select vertices on top of your selection. So let's do something extreme here just to demonstrate. We can select this vertex and make it really extreme, and this vertex, and now hit the eyelid outer button, and you can now see that the split between upper and lower has been done according to what we chose as those vertices. And next, FitSkeletons are MayaFiles. Yes, make a new scene, and when you start out, you will often start out with a FitSkeleton template, and here's a list of templates. So we have the biped, quadruped, cats, dogs, horses, etc. Now these are just MayaFiles, and you can go to the Advanced Skeleton Files folder, and there'll be a folder that says FitSkeleton, and this list is essentially this list. So if you wanted to have your own FitSkeleton template that was always gonna start out looking like this, and who knows, maybe you have a 3-armed character. If you wanted this to be a template called the 3-armed character or a 3-armed biped, we would just save it in this folder and it'll be the 3-armed biped. Now, if we start fresh with a new scene, you'll see our 3-armed biped is now in our list, and we'll just hit import and it will start with that. Next, NameMatchers can have dedicated FitSkeletons. NameMatcher is a tool, and basically there's a whole separate video about this, and one way to access that video, if you click on the help image here, you can see there's some information here, and down here it says open the video link. That will open the YouTube video that tells you all about the NameMatcher. And basically what it does, it allows you to bring in any of these character rigs from other programs such as Character Creator, MetaHumans, and there's a whole bunch of them, and automatically apply a FitSkeleton to match. Now when you run the NameMatcher, it will by default be using the biped character to match. It will assume it's a biped that you want to match. But there's a way to override that, and it's just by files. So if we go into our Advanced Skeleton Files folder again, we can see that there's a folder here for NameMatchers, and there's a bunch of text files here. It is the settings for each of these templates. So we see we have all this variety of programs of characters that can be brought in. Now, if your character from a certain program is going to use a non-default biped, then you can make that happen automatically just by making sure that you're saving out your custom FitSkeleton with the same name as the text file for the template. It means that if we use this template to do a NameMatcher, it will use this FitSkeleton instead of the standard biped. You see MetaHumans here have its own as well, and you can make your own. All right, next. NameMatchers can auto-run. Yes. So NameMatcher basically attaches an advanced skeleton rig to a character imported from an external application. Now, instead of running the NameMatcher tool, that tool can automatically run if you start up advanced skeleton and it detects a character in the scene. So we can test that out. So this is the cartoon guy from Character Creator, and that's how it comes in. If you export from Character Creator and import to Maya, you get the geometry and the underlying skeleton that deforms the character, but no rig. Now, instead of running the NameMatcher, what you can do, if you just go to say import biped, as soon as you do that, and it detects a external skeleton, you can see that it can automatically run the NameMatcher from here. So just go ahead, say yes. It automatically imports, aligns, strengthens arms, legs, matches the FitSkeleton to the rig, and builds the advanced skeleton so that you get a full advanced skeleton rig that controls the imported character. And of course, we can go ahead and test that motion capture library. And let's grab any motion clip. Let's go with Michael Jackson again. And let's just hit play. So that's it for the hidden or somewhat hard to find features in Advanced Skeleton. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.